Off and running once again, just one day away from football. Oh, yeah, that's NFL football on Thursday night. 2 days away from a sterling night of Friday night football in college football. Yes, wait till you see the lineup of Friday night games. What is college football doing? The answer is nothing. The answer is nobody is working together to give us the best schedule possible. We've got great games every week. We have great matchups every week, but that's just because it can't be helped. Basically, if anybody builds a schedule, you're going to have, by chance, great matchups. But there should not be a Thursday or Friday or a Saturday in any time window where we don't have watchable games. That should not happen. And when I show you the Friday night slate of college football, it's inexcusable that actually takes place. I'm going to take a phone call tonight from anybody who is a first-time caller or a long-time no caller here at the Voice of College Football. That is the rule tonight. We do have Cody Stovall stopping by from Locked On Cowboys. He's coming by at 10:30, which reminds me I did not give him the link. So everybody's got the link there in the chat. And again, we would love to hear from somebody that we don't hear from on a regular basis, whether you're a first-time caller, welcome to the show, or it's been a long time and you would like to call in. We would love to hear from you as well. So let me take care of this real quick, because I failed to do so, and my producer didn't get to it. My stage manager did not get to it. My graphics manager did not get to it. What is wrong with these people around here? So again, at 10:30 Eastern time, we got Cody Stovall Locked On Cowboys stopping by. Also, we've got a number of great guests that we are scheduling over the next week to 10 days. Actually, the guy that runs Winsipedia. Are you familiar with Winsipedia? It's one of my favorite college football sites. We have the guy that runs Winsipedia. He is going to be here on the show at the Voice of College Football. It's a late night call-in show. And once again, please give me a call. Oh, and I guess we'll take a call from Caden, even though I'm saying I'm only taking calls from first time or long time no calls. So we'll take a quick one here. Caden, how's it going tonight?
Good evening, Mark. How are you, good sir?
I am doing just fine. How are you?
Sorry to crash the party, and I know my voice is one voice that you probably didn't want to hear for another week, but you know what? I had to give you my list of the losses that Notre Dame is going to take this season. I promised you that I was going to give you that list.
Yes.
The following teams that they are going to lose to after the Miami game are as following: Arkansas on the road, at Boston College, at Pitt, and then at Stanford.
They're going to lose at Stanford, Boston College, Pitt, and Arkansas.
That is correct, good sir.
Okay. I will tell you right now that they are not going to lose more than one of those games.
Well, and also there's the possibility that they could lose all four.
Oh, there's a possibility. There's a possibility that they may not give up another point the rest of the season. There's also sorts of possibilities out there, but I'm just telling you that, Boston College, Stanford, Arkansas, and Pitt. At very worst, I could see a 2-2 record. At the very worst, a lot would have to go wrong.
And also, those games are on the road for Notre Dame, so they're going to have to travel to Fayetteville. They're going to have to travel to Stanford. They're going to have to travel to Navy, and they're also going to have to travel to Boston College. So, I mean, it could be that, the atmosphere of an on-road game can maybe give them an issue. But you know what? In the world of college football, we never know what the craziest stuff could happen. And then my prediction for Alabama is that Alabama will go 9-3 at least with Coach Caleb. And either he gets fired this year or fired next year.
Okay. Well, Notre Dame went undefeated on the road last year. They lost their one game at home
To
last year. We've
NIU.
already seen them, of course. Pardon me?
That one loss was to NIU.
Correct. Then obviously they lost this game on Monday night. Yes, I think Notre Dame's an excellent football team. I don't think they're a great football team by any stretch. I think they're one of the 10 or 15 best teams in the country. Do not expect them to lose those 4 games. Myself, is it possible? Absolutely, it's possible. It is certainly not probable. It is more probable that they would win all 4 of those games than they would lose. It's actually more probable that they would win all 4 games than they would split 2-2.
Well, and the only reason I'm saying that they'll at least lose those games is because I made a bet with your fellow Notre Dame friend on the channel here, Will and D, and I told him that I betted him that if Notre Dame loses 4 games this season, Will had to take a bet. But if I lost the bet to Will and D, I'd at least show my face on camera. But that's
Okay.
I forgot to ask Will and D.
All right, let's get this straight here. So if Notre Dame goes 9-3, Will wins the bet, and if they go 8-4, you win the bet.
So it's if I win the bet, that being Notre Dame goes 8-4, Will has to drop me a $500 super chat on the next whenever December 7th, if Notre Dame is eliminated from the playoff contention. But if Will and D wins the bet, then I have to either show my face on camera or tell Will and D, like, okay, well, I was wrong about them losing.
Will is risking having to pay a $500 super chat.
That is correct to me.
Okay. I would renegotiate that myself to like a Venmo payment or a PayPal payment myself if I were you, because you're not going to see $500. But well, that seems a little risky, Will. I don't think he's going to lose. I think you're going to lose, but it wouldn't shock me if he lost. Notre Dame could go 8-4. Sure, they could.
Well, and also, with that bet being said, I told Will and D that it's going to be the biggest mistake he's going to make. Because, I told him that as long as they lose those 4 games, I told him, that at least makes my point clear that I've said about Notre Dame for the last couple of weeks. And not even the last week. Not since Monday night when they lost to Miami. Is that they are a team that still needs to work out the kinks out of their roster ever since they lost a lot of their starters to the NFL draft. But also, if they don't get their errors fixed up and cleaned up and they don't fix their offensive situation with CJ Carr, then there's going to be a lot of problems going as far as Notre Dame's roster is concerned. Miscommunications on offense, miscommunications on defense, and especially CJ Carr throwing interceptions and causing a lot of turnovers.
CJ Carr was the least of their problems last night.
Well, and I'm saying this.
Or the other night.
But here's my thing. Especially on the road games, CJ Carr could make a lot of could be forced to turn over the ball to, like I've said, Stanford, Arkansas, Boston College, and Pitt. So, I mean, he could throw a lot of interceptions, and also those teams could cause them to cause forced fumbles, which could give them the upper hand in the game. So,
well, what you were stating here, Caden, could be said about any game in the universe.
Well, I'm specifically
there could be fumbles and interceptions.
I'm specifically talking about Notre Dame's schedule, as far as I'm concerned.
I understand you're talking about Notre Dame's schedule, but nothing showed us on Sunday night that CJ Carr is going to be throwing a ton of interceptions to anybody.
Well, I'm just saying on my part that if they don't clean up their act and they don't get their, offensive scheme straightened out, then they're going to be having a lot of problems this season on the road. That's just my take, Mark. It sounds stupid, but you know what? This is my takes on it. So I know you're going to be everybody's going to be flooding the comments saying that my comments were retarded.
Well,
Well,
Notre
guess
Dame
what?
lost on Sunday night, not because of CJ Carr. They lost because Miami's offensive line dominated the game, and Miami's defensive line dominated the game to some degree. That was the game right there, that Notre Dame could not run the ball. They have two of the best running backs in the nation, and they could not run the ball, and they could not stop Miami's ground attack and put pressure on Carson Beck on a consistent basis. And they got beat at the line of scrimmage. It's not like they made a zillion mistakes. They had one fumble. They coughed the ball up once, and CJ Carr threw an interception on a screen pass where basically the Miami defensive back crashed the route, and the Notre Dame receiver that was supposed to be blocking for the other receiver did a poor job and missed his block, and that's why the ball was picked off. It ricocheted 3 times in the air, and that's what happened there.
I know what you mean, Mark, but I'm just saying, if they don't clean up, like I said, and I sound stupid for saying this, but if Notre Dame doesn't look over the film from Monday night and clean up their act, especially when they go on the road, I'm telling you, a lot of those teams on defense are going to start, causing Notre Dame to start making, forced fumbles, turnovers, interceptions. That's what I'm saying, Mark. They got to clean up their act, and they got to study about this. So I know this is a stupid take, but this is my opinion.
Well, we appreciate you stopping by, Caden.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right. You have to kind of wonder when you've had somebody give stupid takes in the past, and then they preface their statements by saying this may be a stupid take, that you may be in store for more stupid takes. That's probably the way it's going to go. All right. Auburn over Baylor this past Friday night, 38-24. Kyle Loomis stopping by to talk some Auburn football with us. Kyle, how you doing?
Doing well. It's a great start to week 1. Looking forward to some easy 2s and 3s, hopefully, with some easier opponents.
You can catch Kyle on the E2C network, talking Auburn football, athletics, the entire Auburn community there on the Plains. All right, this was my takeaway. First and foremost, this was one of the easiest picks I made the entire weekend. I immediately said, Auburn, they're going to cover 2.5 points. I'm good with that. Boom, let's move on. Just thought that they just had too much talent on their roster for Baylor to handle.
I think that's the big storyline that had a lot of people thinking like that, Mark, the talent gap that at least perception-wise was there. And I think it showed up, obviously. And so, yeah, covering that spread obviously was it seemed a little bit easier by the score. I think it's just the Auburn person in me that is always ready for the next shoe to drop and is kind of worried that we won't rise to the occasion. And look, I've seen Waco myself. I've seen the Baylor fan base myself. I've got some married in, so I know how rabid they can be. So I knew how much they were chomping at the bit to get what effectively would have been an upset, I think, most people's minds, the SEC over the Big 12, if you want to carry that conversation over. But I wouldn't have been shocked, Mark, if Baylor would have won or if it would have come down even closer than it was. I think the score is a little bit it eludes how close the game was throughout most of it. If you're just someone who checks in at the score of Auburn and Baylor, it's like, oh, okay, well, it was probably a decent game, but it was touch and go there for a minute. If Auburn doesn't take care of itself on special teams and make the plays in the key moments on offense, this could have been one that could have swung easily the other way.
Yeah, completely get that. And I was going through my Rolodex between my ears trying to figure out the last time that Auburn posted a win non-conference of this magnitude, because, of course, they had the embarrassing loss to Cal last year. Mm-hmm. They lost back-to-back games against Penn State, home and away. Yep. In between, they won the game at Cal. But not a great Cal football team. Yeah. Baylor's expected to do something this year. They're expected to be a Big 12 contender. Phil Steele actually picked them to win the conference. So we'll have to see how it plays out. But nobody's going to be surprised if Baylor's an 8-4 football team, let's say, a decent team, a fringe top 25 team. So we'd have to go back to like 2019, 2018, and I'm failing to remember who Auburn beat non-conference in any of those seasons.
Oregon 2019.
Oh, yeah.
The Bo Nix last second throw to Seth Williams in the end zone.
There it is. 2019. Yes. All right. Neutral site game against Oregon. Exactly. So really good win there. So I would say the best non-conference win since the win against Oregon.
Definitely.
So the first thing that comes to mind, Kyle, in assessing that game was, okay, there were a few people that hit me up with, well, Jackson Arnold can't throw, or Jackson Arnold didn't do much through the air. Jackson Arnold threw 18 passes. He went 11 of 18. They didn't need to throw the ball. They ran for over 300 yards. He specifically ran for, I forget the total.
136, I think is 136.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
So just obviously he did what he needed to do. Number one. Number two, obviously the offense was designed that way. And number three, my final conclusion after assessing the entire game, because I saw almost every play, was that maybe this is what Jackson Arnold needed. He needed Hugh Freeze. And maybe what Hugh Freeze needed was Jackson Arnold. Maybe this is a good fit.
Yeah, let me point to an Auburn example for you off of your point there. Jason Campbell, if you know that name in Auburn history.
I sure do.
One of the best in history. And
I saw Jason Campbell play in high school.
Yeah, so you know very well the talent that was there. But if you watched his career and trajectory at Auburn, people were wondering if it was ever going to get together. If my recollection is correct, he lost the job out a couple of times. And now, granted, he was much younger, freshman, sophomore, but people were saying this kid's going to take over, and he just wasn't getting it together. Part of that was because of some of the turnover and offensive schemes and philosophy. But that final year, when he and Al Borges got together, it was just like a match made in heaven. And everything that Jason Campbell was built up to be was that and then some. So hear me, Auburn fans. I'm not trying to say and set you up for that's what's about to happen, or even just general college football fans, but it's an interesting correlation. And just to your point, maybe it's the right fit at the right time. We're only in game one. I do agree with your assessment of people's assessments about people obsessing about the lack of passing yards. I think it's pretty silly. I think it's a little obsessive, and I think it's a little bit I'm lacking a word right now for it. Look, you take what they give you. They sold out to stop the pass. They kept two safeties high the entire game, and it worked to some degree. It kept Auburn from trying a lot of that, but then they weren't able to handle the offensive line and the running backs and Jackson Arnold. And so you just take what they give you, and you get the win. That's all that you really have to do.
Check out Ohio State's Julian Sayen's passing line, beating the number one team in the country. Check out Thomas Castellanos' passing numbers for Florida State in pulling off a 2-touchdown upset of Alabama. Neither one impressive. Right. But that's what they were asked to do. They didn't make mistakes, just like Jackson Arnold did not make mistakes. I thought it was a thing of beauty. It looked like, I was going to make a comp from Auburn gone by, but a much different offensive look. And maybe the seed was planted by me mentioning Florida State and Gus Malzahn, obviously working now with Thomas Castellanos, but that Nick Marshall offense, completely different run. Now the numbers might look similar, but obviously it's constituted the scheme so much differently.
Well, let me be honest with you, Mark. When you brought up that name was brought up a lot on our post-game streams, conversations I've had just since the end of the game. Is I called it shades of Nick Marshall is what it looked like in the game. Now, you said different scheme, different style, even still a little bit. Nick Marshall just was, he's one of my favorite players in Auburn history, one of the most underrated, I think, still in Auburn
right there
history.
With you. He was fun to watch.
I have a signed ball of him, and it probably won't ever go for any amount of money that much, but to me, it's my most prized possession because of just how perfectly he was for that scheme at that moment, at that time for Auburn. And that's why it was such a thing of beauty. It's funny you brought up Nick Marshall too, because it was even beyond just drawing the comparisons to him and that year. Specifically, we kept talking about the Tennessee 2013 game and how reminiscent across the board this was, from the quarterback play, what he was doing in that game. But there was even a special teams kick return for a touchdown. It was when we had our post-game show, and I'm just sitting back there thinking about this. I was like, we just relived this thing again. And Tennessee was a decent team that year too, not your world beaters. So there's a lot of similarities and things like post Baylor. Don't take overarching narratives across the entirety of the season just yet, but it is a great start so far.
Stats Geeks, Go back to 2013, look at the rushing leaders nationally, and I'm almost positive Auburn was the number one rushing offense in the country. And this, keep in mind, is in an era and has been for years and years and years and decades in which a military academy is always the national leader in rushing yardage, but not that season. Auburn was that against an SEC schedule. They still led the nation in rushing. Astonishing.
I think it was Gary Pinkel in the SEC championship game. I think he was still the coach at Missouri. He's asked post game, "Well, coach, you knew coming into this game it was going to be tough, but it just looked like y'all didn't know how to figure out how do you stop that offense." He's like, "If I knew, I'd tell you. Like I don't know how to stop this offense." So it's a thing of beauty.
All right, back to the Tigers of 2025. Big win against Baylor. They've got a couple cupcakes. I don't know which teams off the
Ball
top
State
of my
and
head.
South Alabama.
Yes. And then who is the SEC opener?
So we will open up at Oklahoma for Jackson Arnold.
Very nice. Interesting.
Yeah.
That will be a fun one. Especially considering what happened on the Plains last year, that final 5-minute meltdown. In a game that should have been won. But it's a new season, Kyle.
Yeah.
Exercise all those demons. They started with week 1. The defense gave up all the yardage through the air. But did you see it as being as blatant as what we saw on the stat sheet?
I mean, it was blatant. The frustrating thing was that it consistently was happening over the middle, underneath the safeties or the trailing cornerback every single time for them. And it was Trigg. Trigg was the one. I think he actually wasn't the leading in receiving yards, but it just felt like in every big moment over the middle, Trigg for Baylor was just there being hit every single time by Sawyer Robinson. The numbers are bad. Living it out was bad. I think what makes it really frustrating for Auburn folks is that was a group that all season, and I don't even think this is a narrative that was concocted just based off the results of last season, that we thought this was going to be a strength. Once again, one game, it doesn't mean it's not a strength. It just means that maybe this is the way the two teams matched up and they're the perfect team to overcome Auburn's strength in that defensive back group. There were some injuries too. I think that factors into it as well. But it was the way they truly thought they were going to beat us. And you got to give some credit to the Auburn defense, because even giving up all those yards, they found a way to make plays and keep their running game from becoming potent enough to do anything alongside that passing game. But it was frustrating at times to watch.
Kyle Loomis joining us from E2C Network, breaking down Auburn football. And again, the Tigers get an early season victory, a big one on the road for the first time in a long time. We went all the way back to 2019, the neutral site game against Oregon. So the Tigers off to a good start after 4 consecutive non-winning seasons. So that can't happen again. Did you make a final prediction on this season? I landed at 8-4.
Right there with you, 8-4. I stepped out a bit though. And, look, everything is in hindsight is 2020. I feel like Auburn is always going to lose one of those games it absolutely shouldn't. And for some reason, I picked Arkansas this year, which is probably one of the wildest wild hog picks that you could make. But I've got 8-4. I think that would be a year that is good enough to continue on this tenure with Hugh Freeze. That gets you into a bowl game. It's 2+ extra wins on some seasons. And that's where I'm sitting still. I don't really foresee myself right now changing any opinions about that season prediction. It's just one game, as I've said a bunch already. But that's what I made preseason. I'm sticking to right now.
Big weekend for Auburn. They watched their team win on Friday night. They watched Bama lose on Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
Very nice.
It was a very nice weekend.
Kyle, we appreciate you stopping by. And again, we would encourage everyone to head on over to E2C Network, Everything Auburn, there with Kyle.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me. War Eagle.
Thanks, Kyle.
Yeah.
All right. We will keep it rolling here at the Voice of College Football. We were just about to run through the lines released from Vegas by the various sports books. And one of the ones that jumps out, not that it's a big surprise this season, but if you would go back, let's say 2 years or 10 years, and you'd throw an Oklahoma State Oregon game at anyone, you'd say, oh, that's one of the better games of the week. 29.5 is what they're giving the Cowboys at Autzen Stadium. We got Cody Stovall stopping by from Locked On OK State. Cody, how you doing?
You know what? I'm all right now, Mark, because last time we talked, we were undefeated. And as of right now, on Wednesday, week 2, we are still undefeated. So all is good at the current moment.
So you're probably not surprised by this. With all the college football I watched, with 5 consecutive days of college football, I did not see one play of the Oklahoma State-Tennessee Martin game. Not a big shocker there. Now, I did see 27-7. I did look at the stats, but 27-7 does not sound like a resound. Obviously, it's not a close game. Not stating that. Does not sound like a resounding dominant effort over an FCS opponent.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously you would like to run away with a ball game like that, but there was some encouragement. I will say that you missed the fireworks of Haas Haney. Those first 3 drives, Mark, Oklahoma State fans were going crazy. We got our guy. We got a dude. We have a shot. We can give Oregon a run for their money. And then he breaks a bone in his foot. But the Zane train is now pulling on station. He's been a big deal since he got here, right? You know, Mr. Nebraska, Player of the Year, Gatorade Player of the Year, still holds the most yards of all time in Nebraska State history. He's a big get, right? So 6'3", 220 pounds. He did play RB3 last year in the spring. So he has the capability to run, and he did showcase that a little bit against UT Martin. But overall, yes, Mark, it was pretty underwhelming of a performance. And 29.5, that is so disrespectful, Mark. That's like an FCS odds line. It's crazy.
It is, maybe not to that degree. I wouldn't take it to the FCS standard. You know, we're talking about a team that was the only undefeated team in college football in the regular season last year. They've been pretty darn good at Oregon. So they put up some points. I'll be wrestling with that line, I've got to admit. So coming out of the Tennessee Martin game, and more so just what do you know of this football team, having followed them, especially through August camp?
Yeah.
What are you taking away from that performance and August camp as being, this is the path to a shocker?
Well, Mark, I can tell you that we're better, and our schedule does line us up to have a better season. There's a lot of encouragement, again, from the defensive line, the front 7. That is essentially where we spent most of our NIL dollar bills, and it was pretty evident. Wendell Gregory ties a Big 12 record in his first freshman appearance with 3 sacks. Oklahoma State in general had some things defensively that worked very well. We lived in the backfield, right? We were very disruptive. We had a lot of hurries. We did good. We had 9 TFLs. We had multiple sacks. We caused a lot of havoc. And that does give you a little bit of hope going into the Oregon game. In the back end, unfortunately, didn't get tested, right? The UTM wide receivers weren't exactly doing anything to pressure the cornerbacks and the DBs much. So we don't know precisely what we have there yet, which is, it's a little scary. And Oregon might be easily one of the top teams in the country this season. I mean, just going off of week 1, right? I said they look better than Ohio State. They look better than Bama. They look better than Miami. They look better than Notre Dame, I think. So Oregon, because, Montana State's not a slouch, right? That's a decent
They're
ball
not
club.
exactly Texas, Cody.
No. Well, hold on. TV timeout. Oregon.
I don't know that they look better than Ohio State or some of the other teams.
Okay. I'll give you that.
I get your point.
Then we'll say Texas. We'll say they look better than Texas. That's fair.
Okay.
Okay. So you got the stats up here. Again, somewhat underwhelming. Caleb Hicks created a lot of buzz in the fall. He has a lot of talent, big time transfer from OU. That was a very, very heralded recruit, right? Had offers from the Georgias, the Texases of the world, chose to go to OU, comes to Oklahoma State. He has all of the intangibles, all the abilities. He did seem to have a propensity in this particular game to try to bounce it outside a little bit too much. And you and I both know you're not going to be able to bounce it outside and get east to west with Oregon, right? Speed kills, and they have tons of it. I've looked at this matchup for quite some time, and there's a lot of intriguing matchups, right? I think Wendell Gregory showed us a ton. The South Carolina defensive end transfer I just mentioned. Brian McCoy had 14 tackles, very serviceable. Brandon Rawls had 11 tackles, also had a sack. McCoy had a couple tackles for loss as well. Jaleel Johnson looked very, very good. There you go. 5 tackles, maybe not completely overwhelming in the statistical categories, but we didn't need him to play the entire game. The Vanderbilt transfer, Demarion Thomas, he's a big body beast down low that can move some dudes out of the way. There is hope that this defense is going to be able to do enough and create enough chaos and get enough turnovers and be aggressive enough to at least give them a ball game, right? If it turns into an offensive track meet without Haas Haney, maybe we put ourselves in a precarious situation, but we're going to have to dial some stuff up. We're going to have to have some fun, and we're going to have to create some chaos and get some turnovers. But it is a possibility. That defense against UTM showed enough for us to be at least somewhat excited.
Did Oklahoma State and Oregon sign a home and home?
Yeah, they come to Boone Pickens next season.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there is some hope that even if things go off the rails as expected, and let's say it's a 42-10 game or whatever it is, that Oklahoma State puts together a much better team, much better season next year, and maybe they get some payback at home against Oregon. So where do you fall in the whole college football playoff narrative of, do you schedule these kind of games or don't you schedule these kind of games?
Well, I think the Big 12 is actually in a somewhat unique situation where we cannot really do anything other than schedule these games as much as physically possible. The perception of the Big 12 is always going to be what it is. It's like the little engine that could but can't quite go all the way. That seems to be the national perception of the Big 12. So we need these matchups. We needed TCU to do precisely what they did against North Carolina. We did need Baylor to take down Auburn. That one hurt the heart a little bit. Colorado beating Georgia Tech would have gone a long way. Iowa State's been able to carry a heavy load, which has been massively beneficial. But in general, I don't know, man. It's definitely a wild time. But I think the Big 12 specifically has to have these games. I don't think it's negotiable. We have to do this.
If I'm adding up these games, Cody, correctly in my head, 2 and 3, I believe, was the record against the power conferences. So we've got Utah beat UCLA.
Yeah, there was the other big one other than TCU. Yeah.
And we've got TCU beat North Carolina. Then we've got losses by Colorado against Georgia Tech. We've got the Baylor game against Auburn. We've got Cincinnati lost to Nebraska. 2 and 3. Don't know that we've got any other ones. Everybody else still has to play. Am I missing anything?
No. I
think that's it. 2 and 3. So 2 and 3 is not the end of the world.
No, it's not.
But again, Baylor, that was a big one just because Baylor is supposed to be one of the best teams in the conference, and you want the top of the conference to win the games. This weekend, we've got an interesting Kansas-Missouri game. So Kansas is roughly a touchdown underdog on the road, but just a touchdown. So that's a winnable game.
Yeah, rock chalk, baby. I think they get it done. Jalen Daniels looks like the Jalen Daniels of 2 years ago.
Done? All right. I'm going to have to think about that one a little bit, but I certainly lean Missouri, but I need to put some thought into it.
Gotcha.
Oklahoma State obviously is going to have to move a mountain to beat Oregon.
Yes.
We've got the famed Iowa State game that's featured on Fox. That would be big for the conference because we got to expect Iowa's going to go 8-4, 9-3.
Yep.
So there's 3 right there. I can't recall who Texas Tech has on the board.
Arizona State versus Mississippi State.
Yeah.
That's kind of important for perception. You cannot lose to a bottom tier team that won 2 games. You cannot do it. As a Big 12 returning champ, that would be killer, Mark. That would be killer.
Yeah. And what's really strange about that situation is, like you just said, Arizona State's obviously coming off a playoff. They're the Big 12 champion, and they're supposed to be just as good. Basically, most people had them in the running for the Big 12 championship. Mississippi State has not won a game in the SEC last season. Played a deceivingly close game against Arizona State. A lot of people get this wrong. They were getting their butts kicked by like 30-3. They did make a bit of a comeback, but they did not have a chance to win the game. But that game's in Starkville, and Mississippi State is only a 6.5-point dog in that game.
Yeah, Mississippi State's had this one scheduled for a little bit of time. Blake Shapen obviously gives Oklahoma State fans nightmares for beating us in the Big 12 title game out of nowhere. It was his first start of his career. And we're over here thinking, well, we already beat Baylor once. We're going to beat somebody making their first start. Unfortunately for Blake Shapen, his Big 12 career kind of went downward after that. but this is big for him. I think offensively, you have to respect what Jet Levy does. I think Arizona State is going to get it done, but it's a scary game. It's what you would typically used to call a trap game, if you believe in that kind of terminology.
So there are still some games out there for the Big 12 to up the resume, but that is a scary one that they just need to. There's really a no-win situation there because Mississippi State, unless we are all just flabbergasted that they do anything in the SEC, is going to be a bottom feeder. And so the Big 12 just has to hold serve there. I got to think that West Virginia, I can't remember who they've got outside the conference.
Got Ohio. They got to go to Ohio, which has won 10 games 3 years in a row.
Yes.
And then they return like 90% of the roster, 80% of the roster.
Yeah, West Virginia is only a 3.5 point favorite in that game. I was meaning, I cannot recall who West Virginia's got out of the power conferences.
They got Pitt after Ohio, and it's circulating that Pat McAfee says game day could be there if they beat Ohio. So there's a lot on the line for WV here.
Okay. Yeah, out of respect for the rivalry, I can see that decision being made. But in terms of looking at those two teams, I don't know why that decision would be made. Anyway, off the top of your head, Houston, who do they have to play? Do they have a power conference opponent? Probably.
Rice. I think they have Rice.
I think they have Rice. So they don't have anyone out of the other conferences.
They'll run away.
Yeah. So Arizona State's got to hold serve. Iowa State beating Iowa would be a big win. And
that's a can't lose, Mark. That's a can't lose. Yeah. Again, and I wanted to ask you this actually. Is it just me, or does it feel like this is the most important season for eyeballs for these games to go the Big 12's way? Right? With all the instability happening around the ACC and the Pac-12 getting bigger and flirtation of potentially Utah and Kansas, and maybe, we grab a few ACC teams. This feels like the biggest year of all time where the Big 12's on the biggest microscope. Like it's a kind of year that if we do not pull some of these games out, it's going to backfire on us in the long run. Maybe I'm just, building it up internally, but it feels like these non-con games for the Big 12 are bigger than ever, especially since Alabama already, they got rid of the West Virginia series. So I don't know that the Big 12 is going to continuously have these if we cannot capitalize this season.
Well, the reason I can also follow your line of thinking is the average college football fan, or a pretty astute college football fan, has been beaten over the head ever since the national championship game, and no games have been played with the Big Ten and the SEC. The Big Ten and the SEC, they're going to get more playoff spots automatically than anybody else because they're the best conferences. And the sport is falling in line for those two, and they're taking over the sport. The Big 12's not as good as, and so without any plays being run, it's just been beaten in everybody's head that the Big 12's inferior, the ACC's inferior, and this is what it is. And so for the Big 12 to come out and, again, the 2-3 performance, I think, is negligible at this point. If you're being reasonable, if you're fair, it's not great. It's not horrible. Right. Again, the Baylor win would have been nice. That would have been the one to get. But Arizona State's got to hold firm, and Iowa State has to win. Those would be the two biggest ones on deck. Yeah.
And West Virginia's got to avoid that upset. Well, you mentioned Kansas. I think that's a big one.
Yeah, that's a nice little game right there. Missouri's been 10-3, 10-3 the last 11-2, 10-3 the last 2 years. And also, I forgot about TCU's got another big matchup with especially getting pasted by SMU last year. To come back and right or wrong there would be good for the Big 12.
And Mark, I'm glad you mentioned Baylor, because I'm pretty sure with my prosthetic, I could have rushed for 50 yards against that Baylor defense. I maybe could have even just hopped through the holes and gained 20 yards without a prosthetic. That was crazy. That was absolutely crazy to see Baylor's inability to tackle a quarterback that, we all knew that could run. Jackson Arnold being able to utilize his legs was not a secret, but Baylor looked lost, and Dave Arana's typically a defensive guy. And you're right, they're a pretty loaded roster. But I'll tell you what it looked almost reminiscent of Remember last year, Oklahoma State had 20 returning starters, almost 90% of our roster. Yeah, that's what Baylor has. And yeah, they need to get it clicking. They need this SMUW. All right, I'm glad that you mentioned that. It's because they have egg on the face, and the conference needs these games more than ever because, I think they mean more right now.
Cody, I'm not looking to pick a fight, but I recall when we first set up this get together a few weeks ago, because we've missed each other a few times. Somebody had pointed out to you that I forget the phrasing exactly, but basically I had some kind of asinine prediction of Oklahoma State going 4-8. And so we were going to take off the gloves and go over the Oklahoma State prospectus this year.
Yeah. Yes, no. How rude, Mark Rogers. 4 W's? Come on, man. We finally invested in NIL. Mike Gundy brought in an SEC staff. Todd Grantham brings in a bunch of dudes that been coaching with him since 2015 at multiple SEC stops, Mississippi State, Georgia, Bama, Florida. And now they bring that staff to Oklahoma State. We've been able to get a decent amount of talent acquisitionally through the transfer portal. Are we going to shock the world and win 10 plus? No, we're not probably going to do that. But I do think having 7 home games, we don't play BYU, we don't play Arizona State, we don't play TCU, we don't play WV. Not that I necessarily want to avoid those people. We don't play Utah. This is a year where Oklahoma State gets more than 4 wins. Mark Rogers, we could win more than 4 games this year with Alan Bowman back at quarterback. Come on, man.
All right. Well, we've got one in the bank.
We got one. That's right. We're undefeated. Say it with me, Mark. We are undefeated now.
Undefeated. One of only like 60 teams in the country that are undefeated at this point, with the mighty win over the Skyhawks. Right. All right. The Tulsa game's got to be a win. So you're going to be rolling at 2-1 minimum at that point. Minimum. Yeah. Maybe there's a shocker in Autzen. Okay. Baylor at Arizona. They, I guess, are going to be awful again. I don't know. They had a big win over
actually
Hawaii. Yes.
Yeah, they look decent.
They rolled Hawaii, only gave up 6 points in that game. Houston's pretty light, so that's winnable.
So let's say we beat UT Martin, lose to Oregon, beat Tulsa. If Baylor plays the way they did the other day, and it's in Boone Pickens Stadium, I have some faith there. But let's go ahead, safe side, call it a loss. Yeah, Arizona should be a W. Houston should be a W. Cincy should be a W.
Whoa. You're just chalking these off as automatic W's.
Of course. Of course, Mark.
I'm going to say that out of at Arizona, Houston, and Cincinnati, my best guess there is 1-2.
What? Okay. Well, you might be right. I might just be chugging on the orange Kool-Aid a little bit too heavily at the moment.
Let's go my route, because you still may exceed 4 at this point. They would be 3-4 at that point, going to Lubbock.
Yeah, no, that's probably a loss.
So 3-5 at Kansas.
Well, I mean, I felt more confident about it. I guess we'll find out what they look like against Mizzou. I think this week's going to be a barometer for a decent number of teams in the Big 12, including us and TCU and Baylor and KU. There's some decent matchups that'll kind of put us in our place, I guess.
And let's realize that, especially in this conference, but even in all the conferences, but especially in this one, games that we are sitting and looking at right now that are happening in October, November, that seem like, oh, well, they're going to lose at Texas Tech. They're going to lose at Kansas.
Yeah.
There's going to be 8 to 10 games in the Big 12 this year that people are just writing off as automatic W's for somebody that aren't going to be automatic W's. They're going to be upsets.
I know.
So I would not be surprised if they pulled off an upset or 2. But that said, I'm at 3-6 after the Kansas game.
Okay.
And then I just figured that they win one other game because they go to UCF. But other than that, it's Kansas State and Iowa State. And I know those games are at home, but those are 2 of the best teams in the conference.
Well, Kansas State looks very gettable at the current moment, which is very uncharacteristic of a Chris Kleiman-led ball club. But yeah, UCF, obviously, that should be like the best W of the bunch. And then, yeah, Iowa State gets to come to Boone Pickens at the end of the season. And a lot of this is going to be contingent upon who's available, right? I've said this multiple times. If Baron Morton is healthy and available, Texas Tech at their home stadium, if they're top 25 team, right, and it's a night game, that nobody's winning that for the most part in this conference. But if Baron Morton's not healthy and they're not doing good and they're not ranked, then it changes the complexion of everything. And I do think Houston is going to be a little bit better. But again, this is another game at home where I do think that we were aggressive enough in the portal. But again, we're going to find out, right? So we can do this again after the Oregon game, because if we get absolutely drugged through the mud and beat up 7 ways from Sunday, then maybe 4 or 5 wins is the correct line of success for the season. I just don't see how this staff and Mike Gundy cannot find a way to get at least 7, 8 wins in order for everybody to stay comfy. Because
7 or 8 wins.
I don't think the Board of Regents
Okay.
is gonna. I don't think the Board of Regents is gonna give Mike Gundy a big leash this year.
All right.
I really don't.
I will
I
say
think
this.
anything less than 6, 7 wins, Mike
Okay.
Gundy and the Board of Regents might be at odds.
All right. Anybody who comes after me for being off by 2 games, go at it. Have at it. I missed it. But if I pick anybody on the money or within 1 game, I'll take that.
I like it.
So if Oklahoma State gets to a bowl game at 6-6, tell me I was wrong.
Yeah, no. Mark, it is an absolute pleasure to come on. Right, you're the man, the myth, the legend. You'd be an ultimate legend if you had a mullet, but you can get there. You can get there, Mark. I have faith.
Well, hang on just a second here. I got to check things out here. Are we missing something back there with the hat and with the head straight ahead? Are we missing a mullet there, Cody?
Oh, yeah. No, my hair growing abilities cease to exist, which is why this hat is attached to my head 24/7, buddy.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. No, I did have a mullet at one point in time on your show, but then I realized that the top half is not cooperating with the bottom half.
Well, the hat's the look. The hat is the look.
I had to quit
that's what you do.
I
never looked good in a hat, and my hair's still growing, actually, so I got to get it cut every month. The one thing that I get accused of that's just is just hilarious that I would love to be able to disprove, but I don't know if you can like wash your hair, live on one of these shows or do something like that. But I get accused every so often of, touching up the black, and that's, I get accused of that all the time. I wouldn't even know where to get that stuff. I guess you go down to Walmart and you can pick it up, but, I may opt for that someday, but I'm not there yet.
Well, we used to get Nutrafol stuff, and I was so excited, and then I never used it, man. I'm just, I don't know. I've been a hat dude, which is potentially why I'm having hair growth problems, but I don't give a hoot. You could duct tape, super glue, JB weld this hat to my head, and I'd be fine with it, man.
Nice. All right, good stuff. Good to see you, Cody. And we want to encourage everyone to check out Cody's show. And a lot of Big Ten fans here, of course, you want to do it this week because we've got the Oregon-Oklahoma State matchup at Autzen. So check out Cody's work each and every day at Locked On Oklahoma State.
Yes, sir. I got to feed the orange hopium, Mark. I got to do it. I got to do it.
That's the job.
I appreciate you, sir.
Thanks, Cody. Good to see you, man.
All righty.
Yeah, Cody Stovall talking up the Pokes. And, you might have something there because, again, if we could see into the future, we would do this every offseason. We would look to see, and these games that we just think, check, 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 check. Yes, most of them are check, check, check. But take this to the bank. Because I certainly do. And I am 15-7 against the spread this season. And as long as I can say that, I will continue to say that. So we will try to continue to reach that percentage for all the fine people on Patreon and right here on our YouTube betting tier that count on my picks, 15-7 against the spread, that there are, when there's a full slate of top 25 games, that there are it's like clockwork, 4 to 5 upsets every week. And I'm not talking about they're a 1-point underdog, they're a 2-point underdog. I'm talking about everything over a field goal, legitimate upsets every week, 4 to 5 of them. Count them up. We'll go back to last week and see if that number held up. Can't think of too many upsets. LSU was a 4.5 dog against Clemson. There's one. Miami a 2.5 to 3. Guess we could consider that an upset against Miami. That's on my edge. They were technically an underdog. Again, we could go through it, but those are the two that come to mind. All right. We are not quite done here at the Voice of College Football. We've got our buddy Keith stopping by. Keith, how's it going?
Hey, Mark. Good to talk to you.
Absolutely. What's going on tonight?
Michigan's 5.5-point underdogs against Oklahoma, right?
Yeah, they're going to win that game.
So, I just didn't hear you speak of that yet today.
I have not talked any Michigan. I got on here and I talked for about 30 seconds, and we had an Auburn guest and we had an Oklahoma State guest.
Yeah, I heard of it all. Yeah. So, I just wanted to bring up that Michigan's likely one of those 4 or 5.
Well, according to some, obviously Vegas is pretty strong in the Oklahoma corner. I was a bit surprised by that point spread, just slightly. I thought Oklahoma would be a slight favorite at home.
They started at 6.5 a couple weeks ago, and it's down to 5.5. So the money's coming in on Michigan.
I guess so.
Yeah. So maybe by game time it'll be reversed. Who knows?
Oh, it's not coming all the way back from 5.5.
I was being facetious. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I can't see your face, Keith. I could not tell the facetious look on your face.
Okay.
All
right. Good. So anyways, it's a good show, Mark. I'll just leave you at that and get to the other callers.
Well, it should be a heck of a ball game. 2 really good defenses. And again, Bryce Underwood's first start on the road against a quality opponent. And the chess match between Chip Lindsey and Brent Venables and kind of protecting the play calling, and Bryce Underwood versus Brent Venables, who's one of the best in the business, and a defense. I just believe that Michigan is going to be able to run the ball, not down their throats, but I believe that their run game is going to be more prominent and more consistent than what Oklahoma can do against Michigan. And I think that support of Bryce Underwood is going to be the difference in this game.
Yeah, I know. A lot of times, whoever wins the rushing battle wins the game when there's a couple of good teams.
For sure.
Yep. And I think if it's a close game, I think Oklahoma has the edge. I think if Michigan can run the ball, I just see Justice Haynes running down the field for a lot of yards and pulling away from Oklahoma by 10 to 15 or more.
Whoa. Possibly Michigan winning by multiple scores. Okay.
Yeah. If the rushing advantage is that much to our advantage.
I gotcha. All right. Anything else, Keith?
No. Have a great night.
Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you.
Okay.
Yes. If I could only watch one game on Saturday, it would be. That's a tough call. I would either go with Iowa State, or Michigan, Oklahoma. Really, no one in the SEC is playing anyone except for the conference game between Ole Miss and Kentucky. The real MVP? Huh? We got anything there? Ole Miss is a 10-point favorite. I would go Michigan, Oklahoma 1. I think slightly over Iowa State at 2. Then unless I'm missing someone, I do want to see Illinois Duke, and I want to see Kansas Missouri. I'm intrigued by that game. I want to see Jalen Daniels against an SEC defense. We know how good Missouri's been the last 2 years. Bo Prabula had a great debut. I want to see those 4 games. Can't think of anybody else that really catches my eye. Maybe South Florida and Florida. Just it could be somewhat interesting as South Florida's as close to being as real as maybe they were against Boise State, which Boise State looks down. Speaking of which, I was curious to see the number of upsets in college football to start this season. So from the top, week 0, I'm going to go with anything over a field goal. And Iowa State was a 3.5-point dog to Kansas State. They won the game. And I'm just looking at generally power conference games. But I'll throw this one in because there are a couple of would-be playoff contenders. Boise State was a 5.5-point favorite against South Florida. They lost that game. So there's 2. We had a couple of close calls with Rutgers and NC State, almost as double-digit favorites. But they both won. And nothing on Friday. And then on Saturday, nothing there until we see again. LSU was a 4.5-point underdog at Clemson. So there's 3 upsets there. Of course, the big one, Alabama losing at Florida State, is a 2-touchdown favorite. There's 4. And that may be it for the upsets. I believe it is. Can't think of any other upsets last week. So just 3 in week 1 and 1. Oh, well, we had... No, those all... Again, technically Notre Dame lost as a 2.5-point favorite. South Carolina was a touchdown favorite, and TCU was a favorite against North Carolina. Now, looking at this week, and folks, I think we've run out of time here. What I pitched with at the beginning of the show was this atrocious Friday schedule. If college football was organized, and yes, I should be the commissioner of college football if I really wanted the job, but I don't know that I would take it. I might take it for like 2 years and put myself through those. Well, shoot, if I'm working like 60 or 80 hours a week doing this, I might as well make some money. So if Roger Goodell can make what, 35 or 40 million dollars, then I can make 10 million. So I'll take the commissioner's job for 10 million, and I'm going to get into this scheduling because we would never see a night of college football like this. This would not happen. There's nothing to watch. There's nothing to watch. I'm going to watch, unless I've got something better to do, James Madison in Louisville, and I'll watch Northern Illinois in Maryland. I cannot imagine in any universe that I would ever watch the other 2 games. But I would watch those 2 games. Not that I will, but if I'm home. All right. Why was I looking at the schedule? I like this Illinois-Duke game. I like the Iowa State game. Baylor and SMU very much intrigues me, and I'm going to have to fish around to try to find the CW network for that one. Virginia, NC State open up ACC play. And again, in another year, Oregon, Oklahoma State would mean something. It does not now. I can't imagine. Kansas, Missouri, I like it. So if we're going to find, we'll do this tomorrow night. We will find 4 to 5 upsets. We will give you 4 to 5 upsets because they will happen. All right, folks, we appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. I've run over by 3 or 4 minutes, but it is good to see all of you. We'll be back on Thursday night, and I can't really tell you what time I'm going to be back on Thursday night because even though I've not watched an NFL opener in about 5 years, I'm somewhat intrigued to watch the Packers and the Ravens. I'm just taking a guess. I have no idea who's playing on Thursday night. Who won the Super Bowl? The Eagles. The Eagles are playing the Jets. Anyway, so we will either come on here during the NFL game or after the game or whenever I choose. So keep those notifications running, and we will see you then.